The day I turned 68, my own son dumped me in a nursing home and told me, "Rot in there, you old bastard. You are nothing but a burden now." What he did not know was that in 3 days I would receive an inheritance that would change everything forever. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel, William's Revenge Stories. Hit the bell because we have new stories every day. Leave a like and tell us what you think in the comments. My name is Steve Miller. I am 68 years old, and I thought I had seen it all in life. But on March 15th, 2024, my own son Michael taught me that he could still surprise me in the worst way possible. That morning, I woke up in my house in Florida with the same excitement as always. It was my birthday, and just like every year, I expected Michael and his wife Ashley to come over for lunch. I had prepared his favorite dish since he was a kid, my special beef stew, just like I taught him when his mother died 15 years ago. At 11 in the morning, I heard the doorbell. I opened the door with a smile that instantly froze on my face. Michael was there, but he did not bring flowers or gifts. He was carrying a brown folder under his arm and had an expression I had never seen on him before. Cold, calculating, almost cruel. "Dad," he said without even saying hello, "we need to talk. Michael, son, happy birthday to your old man." I tried to hug him, but he took a step back. Cut the drama. "Dad, sit down." Something in his tone made me obey. I sat in my favorite armchair, the one where I had spent so many afternoons reading him stories when he was little. He stood in front of me like a judge about to pass a sentence. "I have been talking to Ashley, and we have made a decision." He started opening the folder. "You cannot live alone anymore. Yesterday you forgot to turn off the gas, and the day before you could not find your keys. You are losing your mind." "What are you talking about, Michael?" "I am perfectly fine. I just got distracted." "No!" he shouted, and for the first time in years I saw genuine rage in his eyes. "I am sick of worrying about you. I have my own family to support, my own problems." He pulled some papers out of the folder and slammed them on the coffee table. I immediately recognized the logo, Green Meadows Senior Living Center. "What is this?" I asked, although deep down I already knew. "Your new address. I paid the first month. You are moving today." My world came crashing down. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach with all their strength. "Michael's son. It is my birthday." "So what?" he snapped, walking toward the window. "Do you think I care? You have been a burden for years. Ashley is right. We cannot go on like this." That was when I understood everything. Ashley, my daughter-in-law, the woman Michael had changed so much for in the last few years, the one who always made excuses not to come to family dinners, the one who had made my son visit me less and less. This was Ashley's idea. I asked with a calmness that even surprised me. Michael looked at me with contempt. "It was our idea, both of us. It is time you accept that you are no longer the center of the universe." He walked up to me and handed me a pen. "Sign here. It is just a formality, for admission." My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a mix of pain and disbelief. This was the boy I had raised alone after his mother died of cancer, the young man whose engineering degree I paid for by working double shifts at the factory, the man to whom I had gifted the house where he now lived with his family. "And if I refuse?" I managed to say. Michael smiled, but it was not the tender smile I remembered from his childhood. It was something sinister, calculated. "Dad, you are 68. You live alone. Yesterday, Ashley saw you talking to yourself in the garden. I can prove you are not fit to take care of yourself." The threat was clear. He could have me declared mentally incompetent. I took the pen with trembling fingers and signed the papers. Each letter felt like a betrayal of all the years I had dedicated to being his father. "Perfect," Michael said, putting the documents away. "The transport will be here at 3. Pack the basics. We will see what to do with the rest later." He headed for the door, but before leaving, he turned around. His next words were burned into my soul. "And Dad, In the nursing home, you will not need your credit cards or bank accounts. Ashley and I will handle your finances so you do not do anything stupid. Michael. I tried to call him one last time. Rotten there, you old bastard, he shouted from the door. You are nothing but a burden. I wish you had the decency to die before Mom did. And he left. He slammed the door of my house, the house where I had raised him, where I had celebrated all his birthdays, where I had healed all his childhood wounds. The slam echoed like a gunshot. I sat in my armchair looking at the papers on the table. Green Meadows, senior, living, on my birthday. My own son had sentenced me to exile on a day that should have been a celebration. But Michael had made a mistake that would change everything in just 3 days. Because that same morning in my mailbox there was a letter I had not opened yet. A letter from Roberts and Partners Attorneys at Law. A letter about my Uncle George, who had passed away the week before in New York. And if I had known what that letter said, I never would have signed those papers. Never. At 3 o'clock sharp, the ambulance arrived. It was not a medical ambulance, but one of those vans that transport seniors to nursing homes. The driver was a middle-aged man named Tony. He was kind, but professional. He had seen this scene too many times. Do you have everything you need, Mr. Miller? He asked as he loaded my small suitcase. I took one last look at my house. The walls I had painted with my own hands. The garden where Michael had taken his first steps. The kitchen where I prepared his favorite meals. Everything was being left behind. Yes, I lied. I have everything. The trip to Green Meadows lasted 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. During the ride, I remembered the letter I had stuffed in my jacket pocket, without opening. The lawyer's letter. But in that moment, buried in sadness, I did not have the strength to read more bad news. The residence was a modern 3-story building painted in beige tones with well-kept gardens. On the outside, it looked more like a hotel than a nursing home. But I knew the truth. It was my new prison. The director, Mrs. Linda Higgins, received me in her office with a professional smile. Mr. Miller, welcome to Green Meadows. Your son Michael has already completed all the paperwork and paid for the first month. I am sure you will feel very comfortable here. She handed me a rule book and the keys to my room. Number 24, on the second floor. The room was small but clean. A single bed, a closet, a nightstand, and a window overlooking the courtyard. Nothing else. After living 40 years in my own home, this space felt like a cell. I unpacked my few belongings. Clothes for a week, some books, the family photos I had managed to fit in the suitcase, and the lawyer's letter which remained unopened. The first day was the hardest. During dinner in the common dining room, I sat alone at a table by the window. The other residents watched me with curiosity. Some tried to start a conversation, but I was not in the mood to socialize. You are new, right? A woman of about 75 named Betty asked me. I have been here 2 years. The first days are the worst, but you get used to it. I do not plan on getting used to it. I replied more harshly than I intended. She looked at me with understanding. We all say that at first. Does your family live far away? The question hurt more than I expected. My family. I started, but could not finish the sentence. That night, lying in my new bed, I finally took out the lawyer's letter. The envelope was addressed to Mr. Stephen Miller and was stamped urgent. I opened it with shaking hands. Dear Mr. Miller, I regret to inform you of the passing of your uncle George Miller, which occurred this past March 8th in New York. As the sole heir designated in his will, you must contact our firm as soon as possible to address matters regarding his estate. Please contact me at the number on the letterhead before March 20th to proceed with the corresponding paperwork. Sincerely, Frank Roberts, probate attorney. I reread the letter 3 times. Uncle George was dead, my father's younger brother who had left for the big city in the 60s to make his fortune. I had not heard from him in over 20 years except for a sporadic Christmas card, an inheritance. It could not be much. George had always been a bohemian, more interested in art and travel than making money. He probably left me some family heirlooms and maybe some cash for funeral expenses. Still, I decided to call the lawyer the next day. It was the least I could do for my uncle's memory. The second day at Green Meadows was quieter. I got up early as I always had and went down to the garden. It was chilly, but the morning sun was warming up pleasantly. I sat on a bench under an oak tree and dialed the law firm's number. Roberts and Partners. Good morning. Good morning. This is Steve Miller. I received a letter about my Uncle George's inheritance. Mr. Miller, Mr. Roberts has been waiting for you urgently. Can you come to the offices today? I'm afraid not. I'm in a complicated situation. Could Mr. Roberts come here? After explaining where I was, the secretary confirmed that the lawyer would come that same afternoon at 5. I spent the rest of the day nervous. During lunch, I barely touched my food. Betty, who had become my usual table companion, noticed my restlessness. Expecting visitors? She asked. Something like that, I replied vaguely. At 5 o'clock sharp, Mrs. Higgins told me I had a visitor in the meeting room. Frank Roberts was a man of about 50, elegantly dressed and carrying a leather briefcase that looked expensive. Mr. Miller, I am sorry for the circumstances that bring us together, he began after the formal greetings. Your Uncle George was a very special client for our firm. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Before proceeding, I must verify your identity. Can you show me your ID? I handed him my driver's license, and he examined it carefully, comparing it with some papers. Perfect. Mr. Miller, your Uncle George died in New York on March 8th with no direct descendants. In his will, registered in both New York and Florida, he names you as his sole and universal heir. I understand. Is it personal items? Some small property? Frank smiled in a way that I found strange. Mr. Miller, your Uncle George was not exactly what your family thought. During his 60 years in the city, he built a considerable real estate empire, properties in Manhattan, Chicago, and Miami. He also had investments in the restaurant sector. I felt the world tilting around me. What exactly are you telling me? That his estate amounts to approximately $16 million. Mr. Miller, the silence that followed was absolute. $16 million. $16 million. There are some bureaucratic procedures we must complete. The lawyer continued, but in 3 business days the money will be available in the accounts you designate. 3 days. Michael had committed me on March 15th. The lawyer was visiting me on the 17th. The money would be available on March 20th. 3 days after my son had abandoned me as a burden, I would become a millionaire. The irony was so brutal I almost laughed. Mr. Miller, are you okay? Yes, I managed to speak. It is just unexpected. Frank explained the legal details and left me documents to review. We agreed he would return on March 20th to finalize everything. That night, lying in my nursing home bed, I stared at the ceiling with a mix of emotions I did not know how to process. Pain for Michael's abandonment, sadness for Uncle George's death, and a strange sense of cosmic justice. Michael thought he had gotten me out of the way to handle my finances without interference. What he did not know was that in 3 days, those finances would multiply by 1,000, and then it would be my turn to make decisions. March 18th dawned differently. For the first time since arriving at Green Meadows, I woke up without that empty feeling in my stomach. The information Frank had revealed still seemed surreal, but the documents on my nightstand were very real. During breakfast, Betty noticed the change in my face. You look more lively today, Steve. Good news yesterday? You could say that, I replied, spreading jam on my toast. Sometimes life surprises you when you least expect it. I could not tell her the truth. I still had not fully assimilated the magnitude of what was happening. $16 million. A fortune that would change everything, but that arrived at the bitterest moment of my life. After breakfast, I went to the small office the residents had for guest use. I needed to make some private calls. The first was to Frank. Good morning, Mr. Miller. Have you had time to review the paperwork? Yes, and I have some questions. First, Are you absolutely sure about the numbers? Absolutely. I have worked with your uncle for the last 15 years. He was a very meticulous man with his finances. The property appraisal was done just 2 months ago, and the bank accounts are audited down to the last cent. And why did I never know about his financial situation? Frank sighed on the other end of the line. Your uncle was very private. He told me he had family problems before moving away. He preferred to keep his distance to avoid conflicts, but he never stopped worrying about you. Did he know about my current situation? Yes. He had hired a private investigator to keep him informed about your life. He knew you were widowed, that you raised your son alone, that you worked hard to put him through college. He also knew you bought Michael a house when he got married. This revelation shocked me. Uncle George had been watching my life from a distance for decades, without me knowing. Did he know they put me in here? There was a long pause. Mr. Miller, your uncle died on March 8th. The papers for your admission were signed on the 15th. He never found out about that situation. I see. When will everything be ready? Tomorrow afternoon. Have you decided which bank you want us to use for the transfers? I gave him the details of my personal account at Bank of America, the same one I had kept for 30 years. Then I hung up and sat in silence, processing all the information. My uncle had been watching over me from afar for decades. He had built a fortune, thinking of leaving me something for my old age, and he had died just a week before his nephew was abandoned in a nursing home by his own son. If that was not fate's irony, I did not know what to call it. That afternoon I decided to walk through the gardens. I needed fresh air and time to think. I sat on the same bench where I had received the lawyer's call the day before. From there I could see the main street. Cars passed at full speed. People walked in a hurry. The world kept turning without knowing that in that geriatric residence there was a man whose life was about to change radically. I thought about Michael, about the look of contempt he had when he shouted, "Rot in there, you old bastard!" about the calculating way he had organized my admission, about his comment on managing my finances so I would not do anything stupid. Michael thought he had neutralized me, that the old burden could no longer interfere with his plans, that he and Ashley would have free access to my bank accounts and my small assets. But Michael had made a monumental miscalculation. During dinner, I tried to keep a normal conversation with the other residents, but my mind was elsewhere. A man named Frederick, who had been an accountant before retiring, was telling me stories from his working days. "Do you know what is the hardest thing to handle when you have a lot of numbers?" he asked me. "It is not adding or subtracting them. It is deciding what to do with them when they change your life from one day to the next." His comment felt prophetic, as if he had read my thoughts. Have you gone through a situation like that, Frederick? Once, many years ago. When I was young, I inherited a considerable amount from a client who had no family. It was not a fortune, but enough to change my perspective on many things, especially on the people I thought I knew. What do you mean? That money is like a magnifying glass, Steve. It does not change people. It shows them as they really are, and sometimes what you discover you do not like at all. That night I could not sleep. I stayed awake looking out the window, watching the city lights in the distance. Tomorrow, March 19th, Frank would return with the final documents. And the day after tomorrow, March 20th, exactly 5 days after being abandoned by my son, I would officially become a multimillionaire. But there was something else keeping me awake. It was not just the magnitude of the money, but the possibilities opening up before me. For the first time in days, I had power. Real, tangible power that I could use to change the rules of the game Michael thought he had won. I got out of bed and turned on the nightstand lamp. I took a notepad from the drawer and started writing. It was not a detailed plan, but a list of facts and reflections. Michael committed me believing I was a worthless burden. Ashley influenced this decision thinking of financial benefits. Both assumed they would have access to my finances. Neither of them knows about the inheritance. I have 5 days of advantage before they suspect anything. Money gives me options I did not have before. It is time they learn the true value of decisions. I reread the lines several times. It was not a plan for revenge, but for justice. Michael had made calculated decisions based on incomplete information. He had played a game thinking he knew all the cards, but he had forgotten that sometimes fate deals a completely new hand. I put the notepad in the drawer and went back to bed. This time I managed to sleep, and for the first time since March 15th, I had no nightmares. The next day, March 19th, Frank arrived punctually at 5 p.m. This time he brought more documentation and a notary to make some paperwork official. Mr. Miller, the lawyer began, tomorrow morning the bank transfers will be executed. But first we need you to sign some additional documents and confirm your precise instructions. For the next hour I signed papers I did not fully understand, but which Frank explained patiently. Power of attorney, bank authorizations, international transfer documents. One question, Mr. Roberts. I said when we finished, is there any way for these operations to remain completely confidential? Of course. Banking secrecy is absolute, and we are bound by attorney-client privilege. No one will know about these transactions unless you decide to reveal them. Perfect. When they left, I stayed alone in the meeting room with a strange feeling. Tomorrow morning, I would wake up being officially one of the richest men in the state, but I would still be sleeping in the same narrow bed in room 24 of a nursing home where my son had abandoned me. The irony was so intense it was almost poetic. That night at dinner, Betty asked me why I was smiling. Am I smiling? I replied, yes, and it is the first time I've seen you do it since you arrived. Did you get good news? Let's just say tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day, Betty. Very interesting. On March 20th, I woke up at 6 a.m., as I had done for the last 50 years of my life. But this morning was different. Today would become the day that marked the before and after in the Miller family history. I went to the hallway bathroom and shaved more carefully than usual. I combed my hair. I put on my best shirt, the blue one my wife always said made me look distinguished, and went down to the dining room for breakfast. Good morning, Steve. Betty greeted me from our usual table. You look very sharp today. Some special event? We could call it that, I replied, pouring myself coffee. It is a day of reckoning. At 9:30, my cell phone rang. It was Frank, Mr. Miller. The transfers have been executed correctly. According to my calculations, in about an hour, they should appear in your Bank of America account. Is it okay if I pick you up at 11? There are some errands we must do in person. Can I leave the residence? Of course. You entered voluntarily. There is no legal restriction. You just need to inform the front desk. After breakfast, I went to Mrs. Higgins' counter. I need to go out for a few hours to resolve urgent legal matters. Is there any problem? None, Mr. Miller. Just sign the temporary exit log here. Will you be back for lunch? Possibly not. It might be a long errand. At 11 o'clock sharp, Frank appeared in the lobby driving a black Mercedes. He helped me into the car, and as we left the parking lot, he handed me a manila envelope. Here are all the documents you will need today. Bank statements, transfer certificates, notary powers. Your first stop will be Bank of America to confirm everything is in order. During the ride downtown, I watched through the window the streets I had traveled for decades. The city remained the same, but my perspective had changed radically. I was no longer Steve Miller, the retiree abandoned in a nursing home. I was Steve Miller, multimillionaire. We arrived at the main branch at 11:30. Frank had made an appointment with the manager, Mr. James Henderson, a man of about 40 who received me with a deference I had never experienced at that bank. Mr. Miller, it is an honor to receive you. We have processed the transfers, and everything is perfectly in order. Do you want us to review your new financial position together? I sat in front of his desk while he opened a folder with my updated data. Your checking account, which had a balance of $47 until yesterday, now shows $16,002,847. The transfers have been validated and are completely available. $16 million. It was real. There was no turning back. Mr. Henderson, I need to make some immediate moves. First, I want to cancel all additional cards associated with this account. The manager consulted his screen. I see you have 3 active additional cards. One in the name of Michael Miller, another for Ashley Miller, and a third for online purchases. Do you wish to cancel all 3? All 3. Immediately. Are you sure? The cancellation is irreversible and completely sure. Frank, who had remained silent until then, intervened. Is there any way for those cancellations to be effective immediately? Yes. I can block them right now in the system. In a few minutes, they will stop working. James typed for a few seconds and then looked at me. Done. The 3 cards have been permanently canceled. Perfect. Second move. I want detailed information on all properties listed in my name. The manager consulted another screen. You have a property at 45 Elm Street, valued at $35,000 according to the last tax assessment, listed as primary residence until March 15th. I want to put that property up for sale immediately. Can you recommend a trusted real estate agency? We have a preferred agreement with Helen Ross Realty. They are very efficient and discreet. Contact them. I want the house appraised and on the market today. For the next hour, Frank and I completely reorganized my financial structure. We opened additional accounts, set up automatic transfers, established security protocols. One more question, Mr. Henderson, I said before leaving. If someone asks about movements in my accounts, what information can you provide? None, Mr. Miller. Banking secrecy is absolute. Only you or people with specific power of attorney can access that information. Perfect. We left the bank at 2 p.m. Frank suggested lunch at a nearby restaurant before continuing with the errands. How do you feel? He asked while we waited to be served. Strange, I admitted. 5 days ago, I was an old man abandoned in a nursing home. Today, I am richer than anyone in the town where I was born. It is surreal. Have you thought about what you are going to do with your new situation? Oh, yes. I have had a lot of time to think during these days. After lunch, we went to the offices of Helen Ross Realty. Helen was a dynamic woman in her 50s who knew the local market perfectly. Mr. Miller, I have been reviewing your property on Elm Street. It is a very high-demand area. I can get you $400,000 easily, maybe $42,000 if we wait for the right buyer. How long would it take to sell it at the best price? With my client list, maximum 2 weeks. I have 3 families looking for exactly that type of home in that area. Do it, but with one condition. The sale must be completely confidential until the last moment. No one must know the house is on the market until we have a definitive buyer. Helen looked at me with curiosity but asked no questions. In the world of luxury, real estate discretion was a valued virtue. Of course, I will maintain absolute reserve. I signed the contracts and gave her a copy of the keys to my old house. It was strange handing them over. It was like closing a chapter of my life forever. At 5 p.m., Frank took me back to Green Meadows. During the ride, we reviewed everything we had achieved in a single day. Michael and Ashley's cards were canceled. My house was officially for sale. I had $16 million completely available. No one in my family knew anything about these moves. What is next? Frank asked me before saying goodbye. Now we wait, I replied. Michael and Ashley have lived 5 days believing they have total control over the situation. Very soon they will discover they were completely wrong. Do you plan to inform them directly? It won't be necessary. They will realize it themselves when they try to use the cards that no longer exist. I returned to my room at the residence with a sense of satisfaction I had not experienced in years. It was not exactly joy. It was something deeper, the feeling of having regained control over my own life. That night during dinner, Betty noticed my good mood. You look very satisfied, Steve. Did the errands go well? Better than I expected, Betty. Much better. And now what? I smiled while cutting my piece of fish. Now comes the most interesting part. The part where certain people are going to discover they gravely underestimated the old burden. I did not know exactly when it would happen, but I was sure of one thing. Very soon my phone would ring, and on the other end would be Michael, completely desperate, discovering that the world he thought he controlled had completely collapsed. And this time I would be ready for that conversation. That night, after returning from the errands with Frank, I could not sleep immediately. I sat in the small armchair by the window, contemplating the city lights and letting memories flow freely. I needed to understand how I had gotten here, how the boy who once cried in my arms over a scraped knee had become the man who shouted, "Rot in there, you bastard," on my birthday. The answer I knew now had a name: Ashley. Everything began to change when Michael brought her home for the first time in October 2018. He was 36 and had just come out of a relationship that ended badly. Ashley was 32, attractive. She worked as an admin at an insurance company and seemed genuinely interested in Michael. At first I liked her. She was polite, chatty, and seemed to value family traditions. She came to Sunday dinners, asked me for my late wife Mary's recipes, even helped me wash dishes. But gradually I began to notice small changes in the dynamic. In December 2018, Michael mentioned that Ashley thought I worked too much for my age and should consider retiring early. I was 62 and had been at the same metalworking company for 4 decades. I was not ready to retire. "It is just that she worries about you, Dad," Michael had told me. "She says you look very tired." In April 2019, Ashley started making comments about my house. "It is too big for one person," she would say. "And maintaining that garden must be exhausting at your age, Steve." At first I thought they were innocent observations. Now I understood she was planting seeds. In June 2019, when I turned 63, Ashley did not come to the celebration. Michael explained she had a migraine, but later I found out from a neighbor she had seen her at the mall that same afternoon, perfectly fine. It was the first birthday I spent practically alone since Mary died. In August 2019, Michael announced they were getting married. I was sincerely happy for him, but Ashley insisted the wedding be intimate. Just witnesses, no family celebration, no party. When I suggested organizing at least a family lunch, after she told me they preferred to keep things simple, I realized she was systematically excluding me from the important moments of my son's life. In November 2019, I gifted them a house I had bought years ago as an investment, a nice property in a great area. I put the deed in Michael's name as a wedding gift. Ashley gave me a hug and said, "You are the best father-in-law in the world, Steve." I should have realized it was the last time she would speak to me with genuine affection. During 2020, with the pandemic, visits became rare. "It is for safety," Michael told me. "Ashley is very worried about infection," but I knew it was an excuse. Other neighbors my age received visits from their families with precautions. In 2021, when I finally retired, I hoped we would have more time to be together. Instead, Michael started arriving late to Sunday dinners, leaving early, making constant excuses. "Ashley has plans" became his favorite phrase. In February 2022, Ashley started with comments about my mental health. "Do not you think your father is a bit absent-minded lately?" she asked Michael in front of me as if I were not there. "Yesterday he forgot to turn off the garden hose," she added, "and last week he did not remember where he put his glasses." They were normal things for my age, small lapses we all have, but Ashley cataloged them as worrying symptoms. In July 2022, I discovered by chance that Michael had put my name as an additional holder on several of his bank accounts. When I asked why, he told me it was in case we need to access your savings to help you with medical expenses or emergencies. It seemed logical at the time. Now I understand it was part of a broader plan. During the last months of 2022, Ashley intensified her campaign. She started mentioning very good nursing homes she had visited with friends. She talked about how well cared for the elderly were in those places, how peaceful it was for families knowing their elders were safe and attended to. In January 2023, Michael started reviewing my finances out of concern. He wanted to know how much I had saved, what properties I owned, if I had life insurance. He said it was to be prepared for any eventuality. Like an idiot, I gave him all the information. I thought my son cared about my well-being. In October 2023, Ashley began documenting my episodes of confusion. If I got a date wrong, or did not immediately remember a new neighbor's name, she commented on it to Michael as if it were evidence of cognitive decline. "Your father is losing his faculties," she told him. "It is not safe for him to live alone." And Michael, my own son, began to nod. The last month was the worst. Ashley convinced Michael that I represented a risk to myself and others, that I could leave the gas on, fall in the shower, get lost in the street. "It is our responsibility to make difficult decisions," she told him. "If something happens to him while he is alone, we will never forgive ourselves." On March 10th, 5 days before they committed me, I heard them talking in my kitchen. They thought I was napping, but their voices reached my room clearly. "Everything is arranged," Ashley said. "The spot at Green Meadows is reserved. The papers are ready. Just need him to sign." "And if he refuses?" Michael asked. "He is not going to refuse. We will explain it is temporary, just until we find something better. And if he resists, you know what you have to do." "The incapacity declaration?" "Exactly. You have all the necessary documentation. His lapses, his forgetfulness, the hose incident. Any judge will see he is not fit to care for himself. And his accounts? Once he is committed, we can file for legal guardianship. Then we will have complete access to everything. The house, the savings, everything." That conversation crushed my soul, but it also opened my eyes completely. Michael and Ashley were not worried about my well-being. They were executing a carefully designed plan to take control of my assets. On March 15th, when Michael arrived with the admission papers, I already knew exactly what was happening. I signed because I understood that resisting at that moment would only have accelerated the incapacity declaration. But I also signed because I had a feeling, a hunch that fate was not done with me. And I was right. Now, sitting in my room at Green Meadows with $16 million in my bank account and Michael and Ashley's cards canceled, I understood it had all been part of a bigger plan. Ashley had orchestrated my fall, but unknowingly, she had also orchestrated her own. Because tomorrow, or the day after, when they tried to use those cards that no longer worked, they would discover that the old burden was not as vulnerable as they thought. And then my real game would begin. On March 21st, exactly 6 days after my forced admission, I woke up with a sense of expectation I had not felt in years. I knew that day, or very soon, Michael and Ashley would discover their perfect plan had a fundamental flaw. They had completely underestimated their victim. During breakfast, Betty commented that I seemed different. "Different how?" I asked. Buttering my toast, I would not know how to explain it. "Like you are waiting for something good. Maybe it is because I am finally starting to accept my new situation." I lied, diplomatically. The truth was I could not wait for my phone to ring. I did not have to wait long. While Michael and Ashley start their morning routine in the house I had given them somewhere in the city, a sequence of events was about to begin that would change their lives forever. As I found out later, it all started at 10:30 in the morning. Ashley had decided to buy a new dress for a company dinner. She went to Macy's, one of her favorite stores at the mall. She picked a black dress for $80 and shoes for $65. Total $145. At the register, she confidently presented the additional card from my account, the one she had been using for her personal whims for the last 2 years. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the cashier said after swiping the card. "The card has been declined." "Must be a mistake," Ashley replied without flinching. "Try again, please." Second swipe. Same result. Operation denied. "Can you try another terminal?" Ashley insisted, starting to feel the first pang of anxiety. The cashier, a young professional girl, tried on another terminal. The result was identical. Ma'am, it seems there is a problem with the card. Do you have another form of payment? Ashley took out her own debit card, the one from her personal account, where she had barely $300. She paid for the purchases but left the store with growing worry. Immediately she called Michael, who was at his office at the engineering firm. Michael, there is a problem with your father's card. It did not work at Macy's. Are you sure you used it right? Please. I have been using it for 2 years without problems. Something is wrong. Michael, who until that moment had been focused on some architectural plans, felt the first hint of alarm. Let me call the bank. I will call you back in 5 minutes. Michael dialed Bank of America's customer service. After navigating the automated menu and waiting on hold for several minutes, he finally got to speak to an operator. Good morning. This is Michael Miller. I need information about an additional card associated with my father's account. Steve Miller. One moment, please. Can you provide the card number? Michael gave the number he knew by heart. Mr. Miller, that card was canceled yesterday by order of the primary account holder. The world stopped for Michael. Canceled? Are you sure? Completely sure. The cancellation was effected yesterday, March 20th, at 12:15 p.m., and is irreversible. But did my father ask for the cancellation? Did he speak to you directly? I cannot provide more details, sir. I can only confirm the card was canceled by request of the account holder. Michael hung up with shaking hands. Immediately he called Ashley. They canceled it? Did my father cancel your card yesterday? How is he going to cancel anything from the nursing home? If he is committed, I do not know, but the bank confirms it. Try your card. See if it is just mine or... Michael ran out to the Starbucks on the ground floor of his office building. He ordered a latte, $5, and tried to pay with his additional card. Excuse me, sir, but the card has been declined, the barista informed him. Michael felt like he had been punched in the gut. His card did not work either. He went back to his office and immediately called Ashley. My card is canceled too. That is impossible. How is he going to cancel cards from a nursing home? I do not know, but they are canceled. Both of them. Ashley, who had returned home after her failed shopping trip, started pacing the living room like a caged animal. This cannot be happening. Your father is an old man in a home. How is he going to make banking moves? He must have gone out, or someone is helping him. Who? He has no friends. His only family is us. Michael ran his hands through his hair, a nervous gesture he had done since he was a kid when he felt overwhelmed. I have to go to the bank. This has to be a misunderstanding. Yes, go. And then we go to the nursing home. We have to talk to your father. Michael left his office without telling anyone and went straight to the branch where I had been the day before. He arrived nervous, sweating and visibly upset. I need to speak to someone urgently about my father's accounts, he told the receptionist. Do you have an appointment? No, but it is an emergency. The cards have been canceled without explanation. The receptionist consulted her screen. Mr. Henderson, our manager, can see you in a few minutes. 20 minutes later, Michael was sitting in front of the same desk where I had reorganized my financial life the previous day. Mr. Miller, I understand your concern. James began with professional diplomacy, but I must inform you that your father personally canceled all additional cards yesterday morning. Personally? Was he here? Yes, accompanied by his lawyer. Everything was done following established protocols. His lawyer? What lawyer? I cannot provide that information, but I can confirm all operations were legitimate and executed by the account holder. Michael felt the ground moving beneath his feet. Can I talk to my father? Call him? Mr. Miller, your father has not authorized me to give you any direct contact. If you wish to communicate with him, you will have to do it by your own means. But I am his son. I understand, but banking secrecy is absolute. I can only discuss these matters directly with the account holders. Michael left the bank completely thrown off. For his entire adult life, he had taken for granted access to his father's resources. The additional card was not just a convenience. It was an integral part of his family budget. Ashley and he had calculated their expenses counting on those $1,000 a month they spent on his father's card. Supermarket, gas, clothes, dinners out. Everything had been covered by the generous old man who now turned out not to be so generous. When he got home, Ashley was waiting at the door. What did they say? That my father was at the bank yesterday with a lawyer and canceled the cards personally. A lawyer? Your father has a lawyer? It seems so. Ashley collapsed onto the living room sofa. For the first time since he knew her, Michael saw her genuinely scared. Michael, we spend almost $1,000 a month on that card. Where are we going to get that money now? It was a question for which Michael had no answer. His salary as a junior engineer was good, but not great. Ashley's salary was modest. Between the two, they did okay, but their monthly expenses were way higher counting on my card. Suddenly, they had a deficit of $400 a month. We have to go talk to him, Ashley decided. Right now. This is crazy. Do you think he will see us? Of course he will see us. We are his family, and besides, he has to explain what is going on. Neither of them could imagine that I, sitting quietly in the garden of Green Meadows, had been waiting for exactly this reaction. The first domino had fallen. The rest would follow very soon. While I enjoyed my lunch peacefully, Michael and Ashley were living their first real marital crisis. I cannot believe it did not occur to you to ask your father about his finances before committing him, Ashley yelled, pacing nervously. How was I supposed to know he had a lawyer? He never mentioned any of that. Michael replied, sunk into the sofa. Well, you should know. He is your father. The tension that had been building for years finally exploded. Ashley had spent 4 years building a life based on her father-in-law's financial generosity, and now that security had vanished overnight. Okay, let's do the math, Ashley said, pulling out her phone calculator. Mortgage, utilities, car insurance, gas, groceries, phones, gym, eating out. Michael listened in silence, knowing exactly where the calculation was leading. We are short, Ashley concluded, and that is without the clothes we bought, without the decent dinners, without the weekend getaways. Michael ran the numbers. We have maybe $200 left for emergencies. Exactly. $200. Michael, we have been living beyond our means thanks to your father, and now we will have to adjust to our real income. Michael finished. No, Ashley exploded, standing up again. I'm not going to give up my standard of living for the whims of a resentful old man. That phrase, resentful old man, echoed in the silence that followed. It was the first time Ashley openly showed her contempt for me in front of Michael. Ashley, he is my father. Your father is punishing us. Do not you see? He is angry because we put him in there, and he is making us pay for it. Michael stood up and walked to the window. Maybe he has a right to be angry, he said quietly. Excuse me. Ashley could not believe what she was hearing. I said maybe he has a reason to be upset. We committed him on his birthday, Ashley. On his birthday. We committed him because it was necessary. He was losing his mind. Really? Michael turned to look at her. Or was it what we wanted to believe because it was convenient for us? Ashley stayed silent for a few seconds, processing the implication. I cannot believe you're saying that. After everything we planned. After all the sacrifices I have made for this family. What sacrifices, Ashley? You have been living like a queen thanks to my father's money. It was the first time in 4 years Michael spoke to her with such harshness. Fine, Ashley said with a cold voice. It is clear where your priorities lie. She headed for the bedroom, and Michael followed her. What are you doing? Packing a bag. I am going to my sister's until you decide if you want to be my husband or your father's obedient son. Ashley, do not be dramatic. Dramatic, Michael? Right now, we do not know if we will have enough money to pay the mortgage next month. That is not dramatic. That is reality. While Ashley shoved clothes into a suitcase, Michael felt for the first time the real weight of the decisions they had made. You know what bothers me the most? Ashley continued. that your father is manipulating us from a nursing home. An old man who should be grateful we took charge of him is blackmailing us emotionally. Maybe we did not take charge of him, Ashley. Maybe we got rid of him." Ashley stopped and shot him a look that could have frozen the ocean. "You know what? You are right. Go run to your daddy. You probably deserve each other." She zipped the suitcase shut and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" "I already told you." "To my sister's. When you decide what your priority is, call me." "Ashley, you cannot leave now. We have to fix this together." "Together?" She turned from the front door. "Michael, we have gone 6 days without knowing anything about your father. Have you even tried calling him?" Michael stayed silent. It was true. In 6 days he had not tried to contact me even once. "Exactly," Ashley continued. "You committed him and forgot about him. And now that he cut off the money supply, suddenly you remember you have a father. That is not it?" "Yes, it is. And you know it." Ashley left the house, slamming the door. Michael was left alone in the living room, surrounded by silence and the gradual understanding that his perfectly planned life was crumbling. He poured himself a beer and sat on the sofa, phone in hand. He dialed my number 3 times, but hung up before it rang. He did not know what to say to me. At 6 in the evening his phone rang. It was Ashley. "Michael, did you call your father?" "No. Why not?" "Because I do not know what to say." There was a long silence on the other end. "Michael, I need you to understand something. I did not get married to live with a $200 monthly margin. I did not get married to give up the gym, decent clothes, vacations. I know. If you do not fix this with your father, if you do not regain access to those accounts, I cannot go on with this marriage. Are you giving me an ultimatum?" "I am being honest. I am 38, Michael. I can rebuild my life. But I am not staying in a marriage where I have to choose between paying the electric bill or buying shoes." Michael closed his eyes. In 4 years of marriage, he had never seen Ashley so calculating, so cold. "What if my father does not want to talk to me? Then you will have to try harder. Apologize. Promise whatever it takes. Make him trust you again. And if it does not work, then everyone will go their own way." Ashley hung up, leaving Michael with more questions than answers. That night, while I enjoyed a quiet dinner at Green Meadows, Michael did not sleep a wink. He stayed awake reviewing the last 4 years of his life, starting to understand that maybe he had been living a lie. At 3 in the morning, he made a decision. He had to talk to me. He had to try to fix things. He did not know I had been waiting days for exactly that decision, and he also did not know that when he finally decided to call me, he was going to discover the situation was much worse than he imagined. Because the next day, Helen Ross was going to give me news that would completely change the rules of the game. March 22nd dawned gray and rainy. I was eating breakfast peacefully when my cell phone rang. It was Helen, the realtor. "Good morning, Mr. Miller. I have excellent news. We have found a buyer for your property." I got up from the table and went to the hallway for privacy. "So fast?" "Yes. It is a young family that has been looking for exactly that type of home in that area for months. They are willing to pay $42,000. Above asking price? Does that sound good?" "Perfect. When can we close? If all goes well, we could sign next week. But I need you to come to the office to review some documents. I will be there this afternoon at 5. I hung up with a smile. Everything was going exactly as planned. Meanwhile, miles away, Michael woke up alone in the house I had given them. Ashley had not returned. He showered, dressed, and went to the kitchen. While waiting for the coffee, he looked at the bills on the counter. Electricity, gas, phone, everything waiting to be paid with money he no longer knew if they had. At 9 in the morning, he finally gathered the courage and dialed my number. The phone rang 4 times before I answered. "Yes, Dad?" "It is Michael." There was a long silence. I waited without saying anything, letting the weight of the situation fall on him. "Dad, we need to talk." "Oh, yes? About what?" About the cards. About what happened." "What happened, Michael?" My tone was cold. neutral, giving no clues about my emotional state. The cards do not work. Ashley tried to use hers yesterday and the bank told us you had canceled them. That is correct. Dad. I do not understand why. You do not understand? For the first time, I let a touch of hardness color my voice. You really don't understand. Michael swallowed audibly. If it is about the nursing home, we can talk. We can look for alternatives. Alternatives? Michael, you yourself said I should rot in here. Remember? The silence that followed was deafening. Dad, I was nervous. I did not mean that. Nervous? Why? For committing your father on his birthday? For taking his home? His dignity? His autonomy? It was not like that. No? Then explain to me how it was. Michael ran his hand through his hair. We were worried about you. The lapses. The things you forgot. Ah, the lapses? Tell me, Michael. What was the worst lapse I had? The garden hose. You left it on. Once in 68 years of life. And that justified committing me? Not just that. There was also the keys. The keys I found 5 minutes later in my jacket pocket. Michael realized every example he gave sounded more ridiculous than the last. Ashley said that. Ah, Ashley. My voice turned even colder. You know what is interesting, Michael? That all my supposed memory problems started being worrying just when Ashley started documenting them. What do you mean? That for 70 years I never had memory problems. But in the last 2 years, coincidentally, every small slip became evidence of cognitive decline. Does not that seem curious? Michael felt the ground shifting. For the first time, he was seeing the situation from my perspective. Dad, even if we made a mistake, why cancel the cards? Why punish us like this? Punish you? I laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. Michael, those cards were a courtesy I did for you. A gift. When you told me to rot in the nursing home, I understood you no longer wanted courtesies from me. But, Dad, we counted on that money. Our expenses. Your expenses? Michael, how much did you spend a month on my card? Michael hesitated. I do not keep exact count. I do. $1,200 average monthly for the last 2 years? Ashley bought clothes worth $3,000 last year. You dined out 76 times. You went on romantic weekends 8 times, all with my money. The precision of the data left Michael speechless. And meanwhile, I continued, your visits became rare. Family dinners got shorter. Excuses multiplied. Do you know when was the last time you said, I love you, Dad? February 3rd, 2019. Over 5 years ago, Michael. Dad, please, if there is any way to fix this. Fix what? My situation or your finances? Both. Ah, how convenient. When you need my money, suddenly you worry about my well-being. Michael felt he was losing the battle, but had to try. Dad, can we see each other? Can I come to the nursing home? What for? To talk face to face. To explain our perspective. To apologize if necessary. There was a long pause. I knew Michael was desperate, and that desperation was exactly what I had been waiting for. Michael, I have a very simple question for you. If I died tomorrow, what would you feel? Sadness for losing your father, or relief for not having to support me anymore? Dad, how can you ask me that? Answer. The silence stretched so long, I thought he had hung up. Sadness, he finally said with a broken voice. A lot of sadness. Are you sure? Completely sure. Then explain to me why in the 6 days I have been here, you have not called me a single time until you found out the cards did not work. Michael had no answer for that. Dad, I swear that... Do not swear anything, Michael. Save your oaths for your wife. Speaking of which, where is Ashley? She went to her sister's. Why? Because she is upset about the card issue. What a surprise. Ashley upset because the free money ended. Is not just that? No? Then what is it? Michael did not know what to answer because deep down he knew it was exactly that. Michael, let me ask you another question. If I had no money, if I had been a normal pensioner with an $800 pension, would Ashley have insisted so much on committing me? The question was like a slap, because Michael knew in the deepest part of his heart what the answer was. Dad, please tell me what I can do to fix this. Nothing, Michael. Nothing. The cards are canceled forever. And as for seeing us, I am not ready for that yet. When will you be? I do not know. Maybe never. Dad, please. Michael, for 42 years I was your father before anything else. I sacrificed my needs for yours, my desires for yours, my future for yours. And when the time came that I needed you to be my son, you abandoned me like an old dog. It was not like that. Yes, it was. And now you have to live with the consequences of that decision. What do you mean? That it is over, Michael. The money is over. The support is over. Everything is over. From now on, you are on your own. Dad, my cards do not work. It was exactly the phrase I had been waiting to hear, the confirmation that his desperation was complete. I know, I replied with absolute calm, and they will stay that way. And I hung up. On the other end of the line, Michael stared at the phone like it was a foreign object. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be completely alone. And he also understood that he had gravely underestimated the man who had given him life. But it was already too late to fix it. After hanging up, I sat in the garden for a long time watching the gray clouds gather. I felt no satisfaction in being harsh with my son, but I knew it was necessary. For too many years I had been too permissive, too generous, too blind to the true intentions of those around me. At 5 in the afternoon I went out to meet Helen. Frank had sent a car to pick me up. Mr. Miller. Helen greeted me. Everything is ready. The buyers are very enthusiastic. While checking the sales documents, I could not help but think of the irony. The house where I had raised Michael, where I taught him to walk, now being sold to a family that would know how to value it. Signing is next, Friday, March 29th, Helen informed me. Does that work? Perfect. I returned to Green Meadows with a strange sense of liberation. I was closing chapters of my life I thought I would never close. Meanwhile, Michael was living the most agonizing hours of his marriage. After our call, he tried to call Ashley all afternoon. She finally called back at 7 p.m. Did you talk to your father? She asked immediately. Yes. And? He does not want to see us. He says the cards are canceled forever, that we have to manage on our own from now on. There was a long silence. Michael, do you realize what this means? Yes. That we will have to adjust our expenses and... No! Ashley cut him off. It means your father is blackmailing us emotionally from a nursing home. Do not you see? Maybe he is right to be angry. Michael, wake up. Your father is a manipulator. He is punishing us because he did not accept going to the home voluntarily. It is childish behavior. Michael rubbed his eyes, tired. What do you want me to do, Ashley? Go there. Do not accept no for an answer. Talk to the director, the nurses, whoever. Your father is in a residence, not a fortress. He told me clearly he does not want to see me. So what? He is your father. You have a right to see him. Ashley was right about something. I could not legally stop Michael from visiting, but I also had the right to refuse to speak to him. Besides, Ashley continued, we have to find out what else he is plotting. The cards are just the beginning. If he has a lawyer like the bank says he could be planning much more serious changes. That observation was sharper than Michael expected. What kind of changes? Wills, Michael. Inheritance. Have you thought about that? No. Michael had not thought about that. He had taken for granted that someday he would inherit my properties. It never occurred to him I could change my will. You have to go tomorrow, Ashley insisted, and you have to get him to listen to you. Our future depends on it. The next day, March 23rd, Michael showed up at Green Meadows at 10 a.m. He arrived nervous, sweaty. Good morning, he told the receptionist. I am Michael Miller, Steve Miller's son. I would like to see my father. One moment, please. The receptionist called me. Mr. Miller, your son Michael is here. He wants to see you. I understand. Tell him no. She hung up and looked at Michael comfortably. I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, But your father has asked me to convey that he does not wish to receive visitors at this moment. What do you mean he does not wish? I am his son. I understand, sir, but residents have the right to decide who they want to see. Can I speak to the director? Mrs. Higgins received him in her office. Mr. Miller, I understand your concern. It is natural to want to see your father. Then I do not understand why he denies me visits. Your father is going through a complex adaptation period. Sometimes residents need time to process changes. But is he okay? Is he sane? Mrs. Higgins looked at him with an expression Michael could not interpret. Your father is perfectly lucid, Mr. Miller. In fact, he is one of our most intellectually active residents. He reads, participates in activities. Then why does not he want to see me? That is something you will have to ask him directly, but only when he is ready for that conversation. Michael left, frustrated. On the way home, he called Ashley. He did not want to see me. The director says he is fine, but needs time. Time for what? To process the changes, she says. What nonsense. Michael, your father is playing with us. Maybe not Ashley. Maybe he really is hurt. Of course he is hurt, but he has no right to do this to us. That afternoon, Ashley took the initiative. Without telling Michael, she went to Green Meadows herself. Good morning. I am Ashley Miller, Steve Miller's daughter-in-law. I would like to see him. The receptionist checked with me. Your daughter-in-law, Ashley? Yes, sir. I understand. Tell her no. I am sorry, ma'am, but Mr. Miller does not wish to receive visitors. Did he specifically say he does not want to see me? He said he does not want to see any family member. Ashley felt like she had been slapped. Can I leave him a message? Of course, Ashley wrote quickly. Steve, it is Ashley. I understand you are angry, but this is destroying Michael. Please at least talk to him. We can fix all this if you give us a chance. We do not want your money. We just want you to be part of our family again. It was a lie, of course. They did want my money. But Ashley was smart enough not to write that. That night, I read the note. The words felt hollow, calculated, especially the phrase, we do not want your money. If they did not want my money, why was Michael's first reaction complaining about the cards? I decided it was time for the next step. The next day, March 24th, I asked Mrs. Higgins to call Michael and tell him I would be willing to see him, but only him, and only for 30 minutes. Michael arrived at 4 p.m. punctual. We met in the visiting room. Dad, he began. First of all, I want to apologize. For what exactly? For how we handled the nursing home. For the things I said. For not calling you sooner. Go on. You are right to be angry. We did it wrong. We should have talked to you. Found alternatives. And why didn't you? Michael looked down. Because Ashley said it was best for you. And what did you think? I was confused. Michael, let me ask you a direct question. If I had been a poor father, without savings, without properties, would you have been so worried about my well-being? The question floated in the air like a slow poison. Of course, Michael replied, but his voice sounded unconvincing. Are you sure? Then explain why your visits decreased when you started using my cards regularly. Michael had no answer. Dad, I know we made mistakes, but we can start over. Start over how? Getting you out of here. Finding you an apartment near us, and the cards? Michael hesitated. That is secondary. Secondary. So there is no problem if they stay canceled? Well, it is not that there is no problem, but... Michael, tell me the truth. Did you come here because you miss me, or because you need me to reactivate the cards? It was the hardest question I had ever asked him, and we both knew the real answer. The silence was my answer. I got up. Dad, please. The 30 minutes are up, Michael. And this conversation, too. I left him sitting there with tears in his eyes and the gradual understanding that he had lost much more than access to bank accounts. He had lost his father forever. On March 29th, exactly 2 weeks after my admission, the moment that would definitely change the balance of power occurred. That morning, while I signed the deed of sale for my house, Michael discovered by chance information that would leave him devastated. Desperate to contact me, Michael decided to stop by my old house to pick up some of my personal items, an excuse to talk. When he arrived, he found a young family unloading moving boxes. "Excuse me," he told them. "I think you have the wrong address. This is my father's house." The man looked at him strangely. "No mistake. We just bought this property, signed yesterday." Michael felt like he had been gutted. "Bought? From whom?" "Mr. Steve Miller. Very nice old man." He explained he was moving to a residence and did not need the house anymore. That is my father." The woman approached. "Ah, you must be Michael. Your father spoke of you. He seemed sad when he mentioned it." Michael returned home in shock. Not only had I sold the house without consulting him, but I had done it with a speed that suggested prior planning. When he arrived, Ashley was already there. "How did it go?" she asked. "He sold the house." "What house?" "His house. The house where I grew up. He sold it." Ashley froze. "How? From the nursing home?" "Yes. The new owners are already moving in." "That is impossible. How is he doing real estate deals while committed?" "Well, he is doing them. And not just that, Ashley. He must have planned this." "You do not sell a house in 2 weeks?" Ashley started pacing. "Michael, this is very serious. Your father is sending a clear message. He is willing to get rid of everything before giving it to us." "If he is selling properties, what else is he doing?" "I have to call him," Michael decided. He dialed my number. This time I answered on the first ring. "Yes?" "Dad, it is Michael. I just went by your house." "Ah, yes. Did you meet the new owners? Charming couple, right? Why did you sell it?" "Why wouldn't I? I do not need it anymore. But it was the house where I grew up, and now it will be the house where other children grow up. Seems appropriate." "Dad, I need to understand. First the cards. Now the house." "What else are you going to do?" "What else am I going to do with what, Michael? With your inheritance?" The silence was devastating. "Are you going to change the will?" Michael asked, his voice barely audible. "Why do you ask that?" "Because I need to know." "Why?" "Because I am your son. And that gives you rights over my money?" "It is not about money, right? Then you should not care what I do with my assets. Dad, please tell me what I have to do to fix this." "Fix what? My situation or your finances?" "Your situation." "My situation is perfectly fixed, Michael. I live in an excellent residence, all needs covered, surrounded by respect. But you are committed. I am living where you decided I should live. Was not this what you wanted?" "No." "Ah, no? Then explain exactly what you wanted." "We wanted you to be safe." "Safe from what, Michael? From the risk of living too long and spending too much money taking care of myself?" "Dad, answer me. What was the risk that worried you most?" Michael could not answer. "Because we both knew the real risk was me consuming resources they already considered theirs." "I will tell you something, Michael," I continued calm. "On March 10th, 5 days before you committed me, I heard you talking in my kitchen." Michael felt the world stop. "I heard you planning how to file for legal guardianship once I was committed. I heard you talk about accessing my accounts, my properties. Dad, that is not." "Not what? Not true?" "Ashley told you that once committed, you could get full access." Was it a lie? Michael could not deny it. "So you see, Michael, I knew exactly what was happening when I signed the papers. I knew you were not getting rid of a problem, Father. You were getting rid of a financial obstacle. Is not that true?" Michael realized I had been more attentive than they thought. "And you know what is saddest? If you had been honest, if you had just told me you needed help, I would have helped you. But you preferred manipulation. Dad, can we start over?" "No, Michael, we cannot. Because now I know who you really are, and you know that I know. What does that mean? It means from now on everyone lives with the consequences of their decisions. You decided I was a burden. I decide you are no longer my priority. And my inheritance?" The question came out before Michael could stop it, and as soon as he asked, he realized he had confirmed everything. "Your inheritance," I repeated slowly. "There's the truth at last." "Dad, I did not mean—" "Yes, you did, Michael. and I am glad you are finally being honest. I hung up, leaving my son with the complete understanding that he had lost much more than credit cards. He had lost any possibility of inheriting the $16 million he did not even know existed. 6 months later, I am writing these lines from the terrace of my new house in Miami, a modern villa with ocean views I bought in April. It is September 15th, and as I watch the sunset, I can say these have been the most peaceful months of my later years. I left Green Meadows on April 5th. Betty cried when I said goodbye. I promised to visit her, and I have kept my word. My new life has been a revelation. At 68, I discovered I could reinvent myself. I hired a housekeeper, Maria, who has become a friend. I donate to charities for abandoned elderly people, not as revenge, but to give meaning to my experience. The rest of Uncle George's inheritance remains intact, growing. And what about Michael and Ashley? Frank keeps me informed. The news has not been encouraging. Without my financial support, they faced a reality they had not foreseen. The deficit became a mountain. In May, Ashley canceled the gym. In June, they sold one car. In July, they started buying at discount stores. But the financial change was just the beginning. The tension eroded their marriage. In August, Ashley gave Michael an ultimatum. Get your father to forgive us, or we are done. Michael tried to contact me. Letters, calls. But I had given clear instructions, no contact. Not because I was cruel, but because I knew any approach was motivated by money. In September, Ashley followed through on her threat. She filed for divorce. Michael, who had never lived alone, found himself facing separation and alimony his salary could not cover. The house I gave them had to be sold. Michael moved to a small rental apartment. For the first time in his 42 years, Michael is experiencing what it means to fend for himself, without a safety net, without the financial cushion I provided. Do I feel satisfied by his suffering? No, exactly. My goal was not to destroy my son's life. It was to teach him a fundamental lesson about family and gratitude. But there is a certain poetic justice in Michael learning at 42 lessons most learn in their youth. That money is earned, that relationships based on interest are fragile. Last month I received a letter from Michael. He apologized, told me about his loneliness, but inevitably suggested we could find ways to help each other. Even in regret, he could not avoid mixing love with money. I did not answer. Maybe someday. When he has shown he can value people over money, when he can approach me without a hidden agenda, that day we could talk about reconciliation. That day we could talk about inheritance. But that day has not arrived yet. Meanwhile, I live quietly in my villa, with my books, my new friends, and the peace of knowing no one sees me as a burden. That peace is priceless. Not even $16 million. The story could have ended differently if Michael had chosen love over interest, but he made his decisions, and now we both live with the consequences. If you like this story, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.